Welcome.
Good morning, Judge Cobb and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Let me just say that I celebrate the emancipation of former slaves. However, none of us are truly free when a government can take everything we own at the point of a gun. We all have a long way to go until we have honest elections. Anyway, I'd like to bring up some of the disbursements. It looks like an item number 6 on the agenda here. Last week, I pointed out that there was a disbursement for $382. It seems that money was dispersed for the hotel lodging and for the sheriff's department before the item was even voted on. And to me, that's highly irregular, but anyway. All right, we've got a couple more disbursements this week. Omni Corpus Christi Hotel. We've got the sheriff's office lodging, $1,251.20. We've also got one for Sheraton Dallas, lodging for district attorney's office, $1,244.80. Anyway, on another note, I would like to take this opportunity to hereby request public access to the remaining meetings of the selection committee for the new electronic voting machines. There is no valid reason these meetings should be closed, especially when we are contemplating spending over $1 million. We need machines that will dispense paper ballots in case there is any question as to the validity of the electronic totals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next one is Mr. Matt Oker. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. I've kind of given y'all a bit of a reprieve in recent weeks. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
As y'all recall, back in January, I came down here and started this long process about trying to uncover what happened with these uncounted ballots. And of course, you know, we had to wait about 100 days before anyone in the county admitted that there were uncounted ballots. But I think it was the second or third time I came down here. I came down here about 10 weeks in a row. And I called Jennifer Anderson a liar because of comments she had made to the media that were verifiably false. You know, she made comments about every vote's being counted in Hays County being counted correctly. She knew absolutely that was a falsity when she made it. And for my efforts, Commissioner Conley waited till there was a break, and of course he waited till there was someone standing in front of me so he could crane his neck around their shoulders and called me a punk and a coward. Now I don't understand, maybe he doesn't understand the meaning of the word coward just like he doesn't understand the meaning of the word conservative. But when a man comes down here and he puts his phone number and his address and his name on a piece of paper and he's being threatened with perjury if he perjures himself before this court, he stands here and has video and audio memorialization of his comments, I'd like to know how that makes a man a coward. He may not like what I had to say about his little whatever she is to him, but I said it and I stand behind it. And furthermore, she's a liar again. In March, she stood right here in these chambers, if you want to refer to him that way, and she said that she was committed to open meetings and citizen involvement in the process of selecting this new voting equipment. Then in May, she voted exactly the opposite, as did her 2 underlings that were placed on that committee. If that ain't a lie, Conley, I don't know what the hell is. But for you, it seems like words have no meaning. So I guess what we need to do is we need to pony up some money in this upcoming budget for a dictionary for Mr. Conley, because evidently he doesn't understand the meaning of certain words. But Jennifer Anderson is a liar, and she should be removed from office. And I've made this comment to this commission before. At what point will y'all look at yourselves in the mirror and realize, even though you don't sit on the Elections Commission, you have powers beyond those of the vote. You have the power of the purse string. And at what point are you going to realize that you continue to pay this woman out of our money? Y'all are being complicit in the actions that she takes. I've been forwarded emails of her being extremely discourteous and unprofessional to other citizens. She told me flat out, do not speak to me. I can't imagine how you would ever allow a public employee to tell a citizen, you have no right to speak to me. I don't care if she's offended. If she doesn't have thick enough skin to do that job, then vacate the premises. And I want to speak to something else. There's a trend here of using the police as personal bodyguards on public property. And I was not there, so this is secondhand information, and I'll let the folks who were there, if they want to come forth, tell the tale. But I was told that they were removed from the government center by uniformed officers that receive paychecks here in Hays County. They're peace officers. That is problematic if that's true. And so I think we need to revisit how we use the police here. Maybe we need some policies to be written and be reviewed here in court, because I can tell you right now, they will have to violate the law and my rights to remove me from a public building, and I've got the money to fight y'all. So maybe that's why they don't do it to me. Thank you very much.
Please refrain from personal attacks. Thank you.
I will when comedy goes.
Stop, you're out of order. Mr. Sam Brannon?
Morning.
Good morning.
I really appreciated the prayer this morning. Pastor talked about the overlooked, like 1,816 votes and voters that were overlooked in this last election. We had a little meeting last night and had a pretty good response. I think I counted 50 or 60 people in there. And they had big old sheets of paper with people whose votes were not counted. They had to go down and look for their name and look for their voter ID number. By the way, this is information that Jennifer Anderson said was not available. We had to have citizens go out and do the open records request and put that together. So we asked the people in the room, out of that 50 or 60 people, how many of you were on that list and your votes weren't counted, and most of them just found out that night. There were like 15 to 20 people that stood up, people that had run for office in this county, stood up and their votes weren't counted. We've been down here now, we're in our 5th month, and trying to get something on the agenda, trying to get a conversation, trying to show some level of life and interest out of this commission about this issue. You keep trying to put it off as if it's only a few rabble-rousers with fights to pick and that sort of thing that keeps coming down here. These people, some of these people drive an hour to get here for their 3 minutes. And then, as was mentioned, you like using people with badge and guns to intimidate us and throw that out there as if we should be afraid and fearful of you. And that works its way down into staff. And yes, some citizens tried to come to our last Citizens Committee, and they were escorted out by deputies. And then they went down, and I did a FOIA for the incident report. I can't wait until I see this. They went down to the elections office, standing in the lobby of the elections office, to ask some polite questions. And while they were there, they saw 2 people from ES&S, the vendor for the voting machine, said, "Hey, do you mind if we ask a couple of questions?" And they started asking questions, had a real polite conversation going on. Next thing you know, a deputy walks in and said that they must leave the building on Jennifer Anderson's orders. I don't know what country you think we live in. That does not go on here, and it will not go on here. And the attitude of you sitting up there, the attitude that you take with us, that insidious behavior works its way down into county staff, where we have citizens being put out of the county government building for politely conversing. And that's going to stop. We will not tolerate that. Jennifer Anderson has to go. She does not have the trust. If you were there last night, you'd know she does not have the trust of the people in this county. And the more people that understand what's going on, the more people are going to be asking for her removal. And I know you're going to try to put that off on the Election Commission. Will Conley, you are the most powerful elected official in this county. She's there because she was your former secretary. You whipped the votes to get her there. It's your job to get rid of her. We're going to hang her around your neck. She is not responsible. She is not responsive. She does lie. That's all I've got to say today.
Okay, Kristen Hearn.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners.
Kristen.
I have attended the March and April Election Commission meetings, so I'm familiar with the advisory committee that was formed. And I have some direct quotes from the March Election Commission meeting. This is regarding the agenda item about the formation of the committee. This is Judge Cobb. I think that one of the functions of this, besides choosing election equipment, is also a modicum of restoring trust in the system. This is Ms. Anderson. And I am open to having as much public participation as possible, which is why I am committed to having open meetings and having plenty of public input. She goes on, my intention is to have more than one workshop, at least one in Commissioners Court and then one outside of Commissioners Court, possibly in one of these meetings, so that there will be availability for the public to ask questions and comment. I had a back and forth with Ms. Anderson after I discovered that these meetings are closed. And when I followed up with her, first of all, she voted to close the meetings, which is in direct contradiction to what she stated in the March Election Commission meeting. She is also the chair of this commission. It was Russell Hayter that proposed the motion to close the meetings. He is the Republican chair and is supposed to be for transparent government. I have the meeting minutes because she finally sent them to me after telling me that she would not engage in a back and forth with me after I asked legitimate follow-up questions. Again, unprofessional, unacceptable. So she is not running her own meeting. This is another indication that this is a purely political appointment. Her only qualification is that she was Commissioner Connolly's executive assistant prior to this. There was also a motion made to at least make the vendor presentations public. That also was voted down, and I have not yet received confirmation from Jennifer Anderson, but I believe she voted no to that as well. I don't understand how she could stand up in this meeting and claim she was for open meetings and as much public input. And when I try as a public to ask questions and express concerns, I'm told, oh, I'm not going to have a back and forth with you. I've answered your question. This is completely unacceptable. This is not transparent. We still have not had an open hearing, a formal investigation regarding the November election. There is no confidence in Ms. Anderson nor her department. And it's odd because the number 2 in her department is the one that asked the question about whether or not the open meetings were subject to the Open Meetings Act, their meetings. This is all just planned. This is all just an act. There was no intention for this to be open to the public, and this is just absurd and really unacceptable. This is a huge outlay of money, of our taxpayer money, and she stated in front of the Election Commission and to the public that she was for open and a transparent process. This is not a transparent process. She's escorting people out by police for being in the hall. Completely unacceptable. She needs to go.
Thank you. The next one is Brian McAuliffe.
Good morning. I want to tell you a little about my background. I did my first recount in 1976. And at that time, I found some irregularities in the voting rolls in Harris County, Texas, and I went up to the district judge that was conducting the recount and showed him the irregularities, and he looked at me and he said, there's no such thing as a perfect election. The best we can do is keep correcting our mistakes. And so since that time, I've been an election judge. For at least the last 5 election cycles, I've been an election technician for Hays County, where my job was to go around and solve problems that arose at election sites. And I want to say that the county and the election office was very good and prompt, that they sent me out and we were given the resources and we were able to correct a lot of problems very quickly. And but in any endeavor of human beings, there's always the possibility of a human mistake. And after going to the meeting, I was a little bit surprised about the meeting last night about this issue, because I thought it had been taken care of at the end of January when I heard about it. And so I went to the meeting, and afterwards I started investigating it again. And I want to say that Jennifer, in my opinion, did an outstanding job, that she discovered an error.
Please, order.
She discovered an error that had, a human error that had occurred under the previous election official, and she made the county aware of it, she made the press aware of it. I found that as of February 24th online, you could find the posted official election results and then the election results with those added ballots counted. And so I don't know why the people at this meeting were trying to make it seem like there was a conspiracy to deny people their right to vote. It was simple human error. Now, my understanding, and one of the problems was that there were no written procedures guidelines for the election officials to follow. And when you don't have written guidelines, it's much easier for mistakes to happen. My understanding is Jennifer has put in place written guidelines, and so that should help. Now, it may be that the county needs to go a step further and not only have written guidelines, but have some individual in the election office that's tasked with double checking that all the procedures get followed. But I want to say that my investigation, there's no conspiracy, that it was simple human error, and I want to thank the county for being so upfront and honest when the mistake was found. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, 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 please. Brian McAuliffe has spoken. Sarah Lee Underwood.
Order. My name is Sarah Lee Underwood Myers. I'm a voter here in San Marcos. I'm a voter Republican, and Debbie, I voted for you. I love you very much, and so glad you're on this board. I did attend the meeting last night as well, and I found out about it in my paper. Everyone was invited. Thank God for the data record. Everyone was invited. None of you were there, but it was a wonderful meeting. I didn't give a count, but there was a lot of people. So that's where I learned about it. I've been gone. My mom's 93 years old. My dad was a judge, a voting judge. He'd be proud of me today. I'm not a voting judge in a precinct, but he'd be proud of me today. My dad's been gone 6 years. 1816. Sounds like a year, 200 years ago. I'm here today to say I've adopted Sunset Acres on Ebony, and I need some volunteers to clean up that neighborhood. The precinct number is 113, and I've adopted this street. We have a brushy drop-off free from the city this Saturday. So anybody available? I mean, I'm pulling trees for handicap people, for the elderly, for the people that can't afford it, and we're adopting this street. So if you're interested, we're going to be pulling brush tonight. Please come, 200 blocks of Ebony. But the reason why I'm here today is because, in reference to the gentleman that spoke to me before, of which I don't know, he said we need some guidelines, or we have them. Article 6 of the suffrage that was put in February of 1876 by the Texas Constitution has the rules there. We need to obey them. Just obey them. It's already there. We don't need to make it up by this commission. So what I'm asking you to do, and I'm done right here, I'm asking you to do three things. Number one, I'm coming to the meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I want to be able to go in and not be escorted by Mr. Peterson out. Number two, on this court, for this voting machines, I want three things. Transparency, I want an audit, and I want numbered ballots, which is what we're talking about in this meeting. Is we need to have a recount when we need it, and when they need to be counted for. And all we're talking about is human error here, but this is voter fraud when it's done on purpose. So we need to guard ourselves, and these people matter. 16 of them, 1,816 people did not have their vote counted. Very serious. 3 of you up here in November of 2018 will be on that ballot. If you don't do this, I'll make sure you're not up here.
Did you reset? David Crowell? Good morning, David.
Morning, Judge, Court. I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to what these folks have been saying already this morning, so I'll just kind of reflect back on some of my comments from the meeting where you selected the folks that are on this panel of people to pick out the voting equipment. It's quite obvious to everyone that Jennifer Anderson was selected for that position as a political favor. It certainly wasn't because of any qualifications or experience she had. However, I don't feel like the problem that arose was entirely her fault. However, she does bear 100% responsibility for her actions subsequent to that. And from what I can tell so far, she is failing miserably. She is excluding people intentionally. She has resorted to the tactics that I've seen in this courtroom of having guys with guns and badges escort citizens, county citizens, out of the government center office. I really do think that you need to take a second thought about leaving her in that position. She's not open to public. She's too defensive in what she is doing down there. When someone goes into a new job, they should welcome an audit. They should welcome someone coming in. And in particular, this case where obviously there's some significant problems down there. But instead, she wants no one around other than a select group of people behind closed doors, and she most likely didn't even want that was forced to do it. I don't know what the answer is, but I think a very good start would be removing her. That's all I've got to say this morning. Thanks.
Okay. The next one is Katie Brewer. Are you here? Good morning, Ms. Brewer.
Good morning. So my name is Katie Brewer. I live in Hays County. I've lived in Hays County for 5 years. I've never spoke to you guys before. I've spoken to Mr. Wisenot on an issue about school, and I appreciate him helping me on that and a different issue. But again, like this lady, I saw that there was a meeting about our elections, and I was concerned, and I went to that meeting last night, and I was appalled. And so I don't know what meeting that gentleman went to, but it was totally different than when I went to, because I didn't feel like it was taken care of at all. And I was shocked that it is June, and you guys have not done anything specifically to make sure that that doesn't happen again. One of the things I'm sitting here listening to was that you guys were voting on declaring June 15th Elder Abuse Awareness Month, and also proclaiming Juneteenth. And both of these things, to me, was kind of funny, because how abusive is it for the elderly who vote to not have their votes counted? And how abusive is it for people of color and minorities to not have their votes counted? And that's the whole point of being free and not be a slave, is to have your vote counted. And in Hays County, I have zero trust that that will happen to my vote, because not only did I find out that the votes weren't counted, and maybe it is an accident, but there's nothing been done to make sure that it won't happen again, but that the reason why we found out was that there was 2 people that wanted to have a mud district so they could develop their land, and they were voting for it because they wanted it, and the vote came back 0-1. How could that happen? There was 2 votes, it would be 2-0. But it came back 0-1, so they had to sue. That's how we found out. So to me, it's not only missing votes, it's our software is not correct. It can't even count. 1, 2. That is an issue. So someone got wrong ballots. How do we know that won't happen again? How do I know that my ballot's going to be correct and counted? I cannot. I have zero trust in you and in this court until I know that there's been an audit of some kind of policies written and made sure. And everyone in here, that's what you should be here speaking about, because if you can't vote and get it counted, then all of this is for nothing. Because no matter how I speak, no matter how I protest, no matter how I do anything, will ever matter if my vote isn't counted. This is the utmost important of anything. You guys are going to have public meetings on the money for hotels for police, but we can't go and talk and listen about which voting machines that we're going to use in our county and spend millions? So that's public, but that's private. And I don't even know who Jennifer Person is, but based on all of these things, if she's going to make it a private affair and we don't have any control over that, it needs to be opened up.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Okay, Ida Miller, are you here? Good
Hi,
morning.
my name's Ida Miller, and I'm here to represent the League of Women Voters of Hays County. I'd like to read the League of Women Voters U.S. statement on voting systems. The League of Women Voters U.S. supports only voting systems that are designed so that they employ a voter-verifiable paper ballot or other paper record, said paper being the official record of the voter's intent. The voter can verify either by eye or with the aid of a suitable device for those who have impaired vision that the paper ballot record accurately reflects his or her intent. Such verification takes place while the voter is still in the process of voting. The paper ballot record is used for audits and recounts. The vote totals can be e-verified by an independent hand count of the paper ballot record. Routine audits of the paper ballot record in randomly selected precincts can be conducted in every election and the results published by the jurisdiction. In 2010, the League added voting systems that are secure, accurate, recountable, accessible, and transparent. I hope that the committee will take all of these into consideration and come up with a trustworthy system, because trust in our system has been fractured. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question for clarification quickly? Has the League taken a position on voting centers, or have they not taken a position?
We are researching that. We don't have a position at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Thank you.
The next person is Ashley Wittenberger.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. So when I've heard in the local media or not public comment, during Commissioners' Court comment, one common thread that I've seen some of the commissioners engage in, specifically Commissioner Conley, is a common strategy to marginalize the people who express concerns about our government and where our tax dollars go, and to say that often what I hear, and I even saw this in a news interview, is to say that it's just a handful of troublemakers, conspiracy theorists, people who have a different version of government in their mind, black helicopter theorists. And I do appreciate your comment, Judge, about not engaging in personal attacks, and I'd like to request that you not do that either behind our backs and to other people. This is a small county, Commissioner Conley. That said, this looks like a lot more than just a handful of people speaking today, and so when I just got back out of from being out of town and got this in my mailbox and started seeing eruptions all over social media about this meeting, and then found out who the people were, and actually I was asked to speak at last night's meeting. That was a lot more than a handful of people too, and I think it would have been really entertaining had you been there when people were scrolling their names to see if they were on the list, if you had told them that they were just a handful of people who were trying to be troublemakers. That would have been very entertaining. Also, I hope that you realize, maybe some of you live in a bit of a vacuum, that you've now got the attention of a lot of people, a lot of different groups who know a lot about the voting laws and integrity and the machines and the equipment. This is a lot more than one handful. And in fact, last night while I was just kicking back and watching the people who were looking for their names on the list, to see their shock and anger after they had taken off work to vote, or they had campaigned or donated money, they were really upset. And I heard a lot of people saying, what can I do? Can I file a lawsuit? And it reminds me of the fact that this could have all been prevented when we saw those two votes that were a little bit odd in the original election. That these could have been found, these 1,800 could have been found, but instead there's this sense of arrogance and impunity that I consistently see with some on this court. Also reminds me of when, we had this ATS school zone ticketing machine thing come up, and I expressed to you, Commissioner Wiz, that those are unconstitutional. It's well documented. They're illegal in municipalities. There's a reason that people stay away from those. And I got the kind of little pat on the head, little lady kind of treatment. I found out now, I think there's a lawsuit going on with this that y'all been named in. Is that highest and best use of our taxpayer time and dollars? So I hope that now that you realize you're in this hole and maybe you set down the shovel and quit digging and try to be a little more proactive with this situation. Thank you, Judge Cobb.
Thank you. The next speaker I have listed is Ms. Naomi Narvaez. Good morning, Ms. Narvaez.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioner Inglesby. Well, I'd like to tell you all this morning that I'm happy to report that my vote counted. My name is not on that list. But I'm very angry that I have to come up here and represent my husband's, whose name is on there, and my sister-in-law, whose name is on there. And I didn't add the other names on my sheet because I hadn't heard from the other people, but as you all know, I represent Senatorial District 21 as a State Republican Executive Committee. And I've heard now from Jeremiah Pizzana, Mark Hoffman, and a few others that didn't want to disclose their name, that their name is on that list. Anyone who received this card, that was an indication that your name is on that list. And I wasn't thinking of going to the meeting, and the card was to Jeff. So and then I decided, you know what, this is important, we need to be there. And come to find out his name's on there. You also know that, most of y'all know that 3 of our sons have served in the military. And I have many friends, such as Judge Cobb, Colonel here, Dan Lyon, and several others who have also served in our military. And it's so sad that they pledged an oath, y'all said an oath, and we find out that our freedom is really at stake here in Hays County. I know that Hays County is better than this. I don't know what it is that is keeping y'all from having a public hearing for these people that have been asking for it, my friends. But we need to do it. We need to fix this. 3 of our sons, like I said, served, and each one of them has a special friend that died, whether it was in Afghanistan or Iraq. I don't even know right now. But their life meant something. And it meant something to them, it meant something to their families, it means something to me. And I wish that y'all would please, for a moment, I've heard many of y'all say you're Christians. The Bible says there are vessels of honor and there's vessels of dishonor. Please be honorable. Please do what's right. There's a reason why I'm a Second Amendment advocate. Because the Second Amendment guarantees us the right to bear arms against a tyrannical government. We cannot have this. This is a shame that we're having to do this. How much do we have to fight? When I was out there holding signs for a school district trustee, there was one trustee that walked up there to vote, and as soon as she came out, she walked up to me and she said, I live right at the county line, almost to Wimberley, she said, and for the first time ever, I got to vote in the city elections. I was appalled to hear that. She said, I voted. She said, I turned around and I said, this is not a ballot for me because I don't live in the city. And the gentleman there said, go ahead and vote anyways. What a shame. A school trustee? And I went immediately to go talk to Jennifer.
Your time is up, Ms. Narvaez.
Thank you, sir.
The last one I have listed is Mr. Pat Chisholm.
Can we amend the list from the floor? Can I add my name?
I'm sorry?
Trent Poole, can I speak as well?
Have you turned in a form?
I did not show the letter.
Please go over here and get one and fill it out.
Good morning, Pat Chisholm. I'll try to tone it down a little bit. First question, and this is the first question I put on my application to be on the commission looking at buying new machines, is why are we buying them? Can the voting machines that we have, can they be updated? According to one of the gentlemen that was on the last commission when they bought the present machines, the options of having serialized voting records was offered by the company that we bought the machines from. And he remembers it because he was in favor of it, and the county turned it down. All I'm asking is, can we fix for a few $100,000 what you're fixing to spend a bunch of money for? And so far, I haven't got any questions, any answers from any official on any of that. But our problem is people, not machines. And I have a foolproof system to keep votes from being dropped out. It's rather complicated, but I'll take all the time I need to explain it to them. You make a list of where the voting machines went. When you get ready to count them, you look and see if you got every one of those voting machines back in. If you do, then you count them. This, I know that's awful complicated, but you know, third graders can do it. The other thing is, I still am asking y'all to please don't spend all the bond money just because you have it in hand. Spend it as frugally as you can, responsibly as you can, on the items that the people approved it to be spent on. And don't turn the rest of it into a slush fund for the county commissioners to spend however they want to. And I don't question that the things they spend it on are not needed. But they were not approved, and this extra spending is what is going to bankrupt this county.
Your time is up, sir.
Okay, can I make one? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chisholm.